have with us Professor T. Ramakrishna, and he is holding the MHRD Chair Professorship in National Law School, Bangalore. And he is an erudite scholar on intellectual property issues. And we have requested Professor Ramakrishna to also reflect on the social media issues, basically the IP issues in social media. And because my friend there was asking questions about statutory mechanical licenses under section 31C of the Copyright Act, and Professor Vivekanandan has covered almost the entire copyright syllabus. He spoke about the selection and arrangement in originality. He spoke about the work for hire doctrine. Then he was speaking about the scope and extent of fair use. So it is absolutely a sum of the whole copyright course. But we will request Professor Ramakrishna to speak few words to our students. And feel free to ask any question on any issues of IP, because his understanding of IP is something which is basically which has actually an international reputation. Please back slide. Thank you.
So good evening, friends. I don't know whether you still have energy to sit and listen to IP again. Professor Vivekananda repeatedly was referring to WhatsApp. And if I can borrow his WhatsApp message, having said the WhatsApp, it's something like WhatsApp. In most of the conferences he comes and keeps saying, I don't know from where he got it, but I have heard from him. He says if a very erudite lecture takes place before you start speaking, then it's something like a person speaking to a Japanese audience. The speaker would speak for 15 minutes and the translator would translate it after that. Another 15 minutes and then it translates. And it seems the speaker spoke for 15 minutes and then asked the translator, can you do the translation? The translator within 2 sentences, not less than that, he summed up. So the entire audience laughed. Then after 15 minutes again he spoke, again he summed up in half a second or half a minute. And then the entire audience said, whoa. Last 10 minutes, audience started laughing. Then he asked, after the entire program was over, I'm very curious. I know you're a good translator. I'm very curious. I did not know that a person can translate 15 minutes speech in half a second or 1 second. What is that you said? He did not answer. He asked his friend, another organizer, what did he say? Most of the first 15 minutes when he spoke, he said, he has not said anything new. The second 15 minutes, still I did not find anything new. And after the last 10 minutes he said, better, he completed the talk. These were they were all laughing, sir. These were the words of Vivekananda, right? Which I keep always telling. From where it came, like WhatsApp message, we do not know. I just pick up threads from where he left or some of the issues that he raised. In fact, when Professor Matilal asked me to speak on social media, I said, why? Like, I do not have any presentation. On my way from NUJS to here, a few rambling thoughts came to my mind. Then I thought, let me just pick up from those rambling thoughts. Some of which he has covered. The last slide, I'll just start with the last slide that he showed you. What was the last slide? A selfie. Whose IP it is? Who fought for? Patent fought for it. What is patent known? What's that? The people for treatment of animals. They have a worldwide trademark. I'm sure you must be knowing it. But has a worldwide trademark. At least in 70 countries it has registered that particular patent. And in US it has a federal trademark. It created its own website also. I don't know whether you are aware of that. It created its own website. And in New York, there was another person who created a similar website. which goes up to Second Circuit of US. And in the first page, they clearly mentioned, this website has nothing to do with people for ethical treatment of animals. Fine, a disclaimer. Right, start with the disclaimer. If you want to know more, click here. You clicked and went to the third page. And the third page said, this is people eating tasty animals. This is for people eating tasty animals. This was a PETA. But the URL was PETA.org and PETA.com. That's the only difference. PETA.org and PETA.com. Now the question before the trial court was whether PETA.org or the .com, as a way, that is infringing upon the trademark of PETA, because PETA is a registered trademark. Would it amount to cyberspatting or not? Or would it amount to a parody or not? These were the questions that came before the court. How do you analyze that? How do you look at this particular thing? Do you consider that to be an infringement of trademark? Straight away? Right? Or do you consider it to be a parody? You know what parody is? What do you find? If someone was asking about the legal principles, who asked me, what is the legal principle underlying that, that you asked a particular question? And always you go to the fundamental questions. Right? What is that particular legal principle or a principle underlying a parody? When would it become a parody?
Parody would be more.
You have heard about this? Barbie? Barbie is a trademark, right? So Barbie is a trademark. And have you also heard about MCA publication, right, of an album? In that album, you have heard about I'm a Barbie doll. The whole song they use the word Barbie, 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 and Barbie. Do you consider using that particular Barbie in MCA recording to be a parody or to be violation of the trademark of Mattel, the Barbie? It's a violation, not parody. So that leads to the fundamental question of what could be a parody. What could be a parody? Right? Simi Garewal was conducting a program. And there came on MTV another person called Simi Garewal. Right? A man in Simi Garewal's dress conducting an interview. Would you consider that particular thing as a parody? Or an Amitabh Bachchan line coming on MTV and conducting a program similar to Kaun Banega Crorepati? Would that be considered as a parody? So with this goes the fundamental question as to what could be a parody? That could be a parody. And how much of the original material you have to take in order to avoid infringement? Right? Pretty Woman's case you have heard? Pretty Woman? Yes, please.
How can parody even be infringement in that case? Because there are many.
I did not say parody is infringement. I did not say parody is infringement. Is it parody or is it infringement? So the question, right?
An adaptation doesn't qualify.
One. Right?
Doesn't it qualify as an adaptation because it is based on another work?
Is adaptation permitted under copyright? Right?
No, it's not.
It's not. It's an adaptation of a copyrighted material. Is a right of the copyright owner. Section 14 very clearly speaks about that. And adaptation cannot be done by some other person and justify it on a fair deal. Does it amount to adaptation here? It goes beyond adaptation, right? Yes. The second circuit, you can question that. The second circuit, these are the second circuit went about. In all the examples that I gave here, do you find that the two contradictory messages are sent out simultaneously? One saying, yes, this is Simi Garewal, immediately saying this is not Simi Garewal. This is Amitabh Bachchan, but this is not Amitabh Bachchan. This is Pretty Woman's song, but this is not actually Pretty Woman's song. Right? Are these contradictory messages sent out simultaneously saying that yes, this is related to this particular popular work, but not the popular work? Related to popular work, but not a popular work, which means just to draw the attention of the audience or the spectator or the observers, you have related that to a popular work. And That's there it stops. There the reference stops, and beyond that is your creation. And if it's that to that extent that you have related it and go beyond that, it will be a parody, is what the second circuit said. And in the light of this, do you think Twitter.com is a parody of Twitter.org? Are you sure?
It's deceiving.
Think over.
It's deceiving. It can be typo squatting.
It can be
Typo squatting.
typo squatting. Typo squatting is infringement.
It had a
Because it is deceptively similar, she says. There is no deceptive similarity at all. They said beta, clearly. It is identical, except the TDM, right?
But it has a disclaimer, so Excel is not that beta that people will think.
No, I'm hitting it. The first page homepage is coming. Surface linking was there.
Right, right. Wonderful, wonderful way of analyzing it. See here, there are a few questions that come up. When do you realize that a contradictory message is sent? When do you realize that? Only after going to the third page that you realize that the contradictory message also comes. But are contradictory messages sent simultaneously in this case? It is not. If it is not, is there an initial interest confusion happening when you start clicking on the word twitter.com or twitter.org of the other party? When you go and click on that particular thing, there is an initial interest confusion happening. The moment initial interest confusion happens, if you enter in, come back within few seconds also, still initial interest confusion has happened. And therefore, there is a deceptive similarity which has misled the user of the internet. And in that context, as far as URL is concerned, I am not talking about the website content now. Please note carefully here. As far as the URL is concerned, twitter.com and twitter.org, they are deceptively similar because there is interest confusion happening, and there is no parody here. It is not a parody. Parody starts from the third page onwards. And therefore, we have to. So that I thought I'll just start from that particular issue. And then there are other issues that come up. Someone raised here an issue about artificial intelligence. That's a beautiful area on which although Professor Vivekanand said it's the lawyer who is going to benefit, right? What is certain for him is the money, right? You can interpret either way. But what is the basic principle that you are going to apply here to interpret such a situation? Into this field, there is a lot of literature, a lot of jurisprudence that is developed in two jurisdictions, especially relating to automated journalism. Have you heard of automated journalism? You have an algorithm developed, and all of us know algorithm could be copyrightable, right? The entire computer program could be copyrighted, and the algorithm that's developed here is developed in such a way that it will have access to the data-rich content. Data-rich content it will have access to. Collects the data-rich content and then translate that, writes the news item in a traditional, conventional way. Like taking from the Sensex, information from Sensex, information from other data sources. Then it automatically generates and says, well, this is a trend that's happening in the share market. Who wrote that particular thing about the share market? That is published by the publisher in the newspaper, and copyright is claimed by the proprietor would claim the copyright. That we have, I'm sure understood under section 17, 1A of the Copyright Act. Now the question, can they claim copyright at all is the next question. We are not talking about ownership, we are talking about authorship. How do you determine authorship in such a scenario? There were arguments which came before several courts, in which 3 different versions were taken. Who probably could be the author of this work? Like Selfie. You can go back to Selfie itself. Who could be the author in an automated journalism? Who could be author in case of robotic actions? We'll come to ownership a little later. I'm asking you too many questions? No, right? Yes?
What would
the software. The first alternative could be the person who has generated the algorithm and written the software could be the owner, could be the author. Second person, right?
Multi-ownership concept is there, I believe.
Multi-ownership, authorship, right?
Multi-ownership.
No, let's come to authorship, not ownership later. Authorship is more important for us.
Joint authorship also.
It could be joint authorship. Who could be the joint
17.
author?
17.
Who could be the joint authors then? 17 does not speak about joint authors.
First of all.
Use it. Speaks about joint authorship. Yes, please. Who is the other author? Who could be the other author? Who could be the other person who can be author? Right? Right. Right. So the content owner of the database would be, should also be the author. Then, should the person who wrote the algorithm also become an author? One alternative. The person who writes the algorithm, should he become the author? And then the next one, as was pointed out there, the one who actually implements AI, right? Should the robot itself or should the algorithm itself get authorship? Because it's the algorithm itself which performs all these things, and the end result is by the algorithm. Should the algorithm get the ownership? Authorship rather. This has been, first thing has been resolved. That is, an algorithm cannot be conferred authorship within the constitutional framework, and therefore an author would not become, an algorithm cannot become author, something like a robot cannot become an author, or an animal cannot become an author. This has been clearly laid out. The next question that comes up is, should the person who uses this particular algorithm, provides the feedback, data input, and then gets the data output, should that person be considered as the author, or should the person who has written the algorithm be the author? Here, on these two, debate is going on. Debate is going on, and there are quite a few scholarly writings that have come up, right, in the two jurisdictions. And how would we decide that? In the Indian context, how would you say? It's very simple. In the Indian context, who should become the author?
The algorithm is run.
Right.
Without algorithm, it won't even function.
Right.
So the person.
Have you visited Second Life? Anyone of you? You say we're all on social media, Facebook, Twitter, all this. Fine. You have visited Second Life. Can you just tell me about Second Life? Not your Second Life, but right.
It's a virtual reality gaming,
Yeah.
and where you can take a car and go there, and you can also create things there. User generated contents are there. A lot many things. There's another word.
That's another word. He said it. There's another word. If you are bored with IIT campus, you can go to. No, that's what he means. You can go to Second Life, create your own campus. If you're bored with your friends, you can create your own friends, create your own ambience. And the best part of it, who is the author then? You are the author. And who is the owner? Second Life has a policy that the creator shall be the owner of that particular artistic work. And Second Life also has got a very interesting policy. The one who created this and one who owns this particular artistic work can sell the copyrighted material for real money. Virtual artistic work for real money can be bought. Lendl, right? Lendl, or they will purchase it for, or even you can also purchase on that particular thing. You don't have sufficient time for creating all the ambience. You want the entire sea, you want the entire island to be created for yourself, and someone has already created an island. You can just ask him to lend that particular island and pay him the money. That is Second Life. Now, Second Life policy is very clear. Second Life policy is not like the other policy. It says you create, you own, you dispose of, right? We would not claim any non-exclusive, right, license. We do not claim the right to sub-license, so on and so forth, which Twitter did. Is Twitter itself violating the copyright? Forget about all other policies, etc., etc. I read a news item where that bird comes and says, I do not know anything about copyright, but all that I know is my copyrighted tweet has been used as a Twitter. Right? It has been violated by some other person. Now, coming back to the question, is Twitter, right, by that, violating the copyright?
So, because we can't use Twitter because the very purpose is to retweet.
Right. I will go back to the question that you raised, very, very interesting question that you raised, the legal issue that you raised in this case. Should there not be some underlying core legal principles based on which you should be able to justify that particular clause that you have included? Can there be a clause which would say, or which would force an individual that whatever content you created and uploaded on this social media that you're going to use shall be owned by us for limited purpose? And to what extent can they go? If you're granting them permission to retain right over it, can you also grant permission to them to sub-license it and then contract out sometimes? Would that not be violation of the basic tenets of the contract law principles itself?
This Copyright Act actually has a provisions where the author is not the owner first. So if it's created on the platform of the person who developed it, then that person on whose platform has been created, they get the license. That is the agreement that says. So doesn't that make sense? Because 17 can be applied.
What do you have to say 17?
Because you are commissioning someone.
Right.
Like by agreeing to the terms of service, by using Twitter, you are being commissioned. Like you create something, and it is for the express purpose of retweeting. You're using the medium, you're using something that has been granted to you by that. So in return, you license them to use your tweet for the.
Oh, you mean to say it's a commission book in such circumstances? Right? Have you been commissioned by the tweeter? Or did you commission Twitter? Very interesting, right? Where exactly an individual would stand? And would that apply to literary work also? Section 17, 1b. Would that come to all artistic works? Right? There are only 5 categories mentioned, right? Which does not include your tweets, literary works is not at all covered under section 17, 1b. Automatically it comes back to you. That you generated and there is no commission. You are not an employee. There is no employer-employee relationship between you and the tweeter. Therefore, you know that is proper. Now the next issue that I am going to take. Right? These are just random thoughts. If you ask questions, then I can answer.
So, a question.
I am not going to patent law. I am not going to other ideas
So,
at this
this
particular
question authorship.
Yes,
Like in Instagram, if, for example, in this recent there was the
Instagram
news-
have removed that. You know that?
No, I'm just saying.
Instagram also had a similar provision, and recently they have. Oh, please.
Yeah, but in Instagram there was this news where Hrithik Roshan's picture with his kids was used by Tommy Hilfiger for its promotion. So the picture was actually clicked by some photographer,
Right.
but it was uploaded in Hrithik Roshan's Instagram account.
Right.
So I want to ask the question: with authorship would be with the one who clicks the photograph, or should it be with the Instagram account holder? Because it's uploaded by Hrithik, but it's actually clicked by somebody else. Because in photograph, what happens? The one who clicks the photograph actually puts his creativity, and he has the authorship. So in this regard, who should we consider as the owner?
Right. I don't think there is any doubt whatsoever on this particular issue. The one who clicks copyright law, everyone is very clear that the photographer automatically gets the copy, becomes the author of that particular photo. Right? There were very interesting questions that people used to ask us right, sir, if you take my photo, will I be the owner? Because my picture is there in the particular photo. If you take a group photo of a school, that would all those who are in the photo, would they become joint owners at least, joint authors? Who would become authors there? It's a photograph, right? It's very simple. Law is very clear. The one who takes the photograph is the author of the photograph. But then, does it involve only copyright issues or does it go beyond copyright issues? If you go and take the photograph of a handsome boy, so always everyone use beautiful girl, right? Let me just change you now. Right? You take the photo of a handsome boy outside without his permission and then put it on the media. Who has the copyright? You had the copyright. You took the photo and have put it on the social media. Is there any copyright issue at all there? But are there any privacy issues?
Yes.
Privacy issues are there, right? So it goes beyond the copyright. What do you?
But sir, they always sign a model release.
What do you mean?
They always sign a model release.
Right.
In photographs,
Ah.
in photography models, they sign a model release.
Right.
Releasing all the liability of the model. So
Right.
does that mean the model is also the owner of the photograph?
I'm not getting it.
So does that mean, so we know that the photographer is the author, but the general practice in photography is you take a model release,
Right.
which mentions that for certain consideration the model is released of all the liabilities.
Right,
So
right.
if we do not do the model release, then does that mean the model is also the owner?
No, model will not be the core. The purpose for which you have taken photograph, right, is conditional here. The purpose for which you are going to use the copyrighted work is also conditional. And therefore, the copyright, in addition to copyright, the contractual relationship between the two persons would govern the use of the copyrighted material. See, there are situations where you ban a book. When you ban the book, does that mean that the individual loses copyright over that particular creation? He would not lose the copyright creation. But there are larger purposes for which you are banning the book. Copyright continues. You know, copyright law, initially it says, right, literary work, you know the definition of literary work. Anything in University of London Press case, anything in print or word is a literary work. And it also said, we do not question the literary merit of the work. Even a trash, if it could be read and understood, it should not be gibberish. If it could be understood, automatically it gets a copyright protection. Is it right? Then contractual obligations, right? In such circumstances would come. If it is right model with whom you have an arrangement saying that this is the purpose for which you are going to use the photographs that I have taken from you, and therefore there is a release obtained from the individual. The purpose for which you are going to use the copyright. But under copyright law, it's very clear that the photographer will get the copyright protection for the photograph. Yes, please.
So in the
I would love this rather than
so in the Ellen photo, the Oscar photo,
pardon.
the Ellen Oscar photo, it was Oscar selfie, sorry. It was Bradley Cooper who clicked the selfie. But generally, why is the copyright giving authorship to the photographer? Is because he's putting his skill set and other things into place to take the photo. But in this particular selfie, it was Ellen who arranged everybody. She put her skill set, it was her phone. So will Bradley Cooper be getting the authorship or would Ellen be getting it? Only because he's clicking it. Would that be the only reason he's getting it?
Which law said that because a person puts skill set while taking photograph, he gets authorship over the copyright over the photograph?
No, it's general.
Where is it said?
It's not said anywhere.
Feast publications case in US. I'm sure you must have heard about that. It says, not about photograph, it says that it is to protect the creativity. Copyright law is created to protect the creativity and to promote creativity. Right? Is there such a creativity here in case of photograph at all? In most of the photographs you do not find creativity. There may not be. Because all photographs, all cameras are pre-arranged, pre-set, and all that you'll have to do is you'll have to click, automatically everything will be adjusted and you get the picture. In such circumstances, where is the creativity coming up? Something like, I'll just take a very, very general example. Imagine you take an ink pot. You're just moving around here, and when you come across here, accidentally, the ink pot, it spills over the canvas and creates an artistic work. Or if you display that in the modern art gallery and say this is a modern art that I created, is there anyone who is going to deny you copyright? How did you create that? How did you? Accident also. It happened, right? Would it become an artistic work?
Not about any doctrines. When of the word doctrine, it doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply. When of the doctrine doesn't apply.
And
Creativity
the
creativity doesn't apply. Does originality apply?
No, nothing was.
Originality in case of a derivative work is different from originality in case of a transformative work, and originality in a new work is different from originality in a derivative work. If you take the already existing work, modify it, translate, etc., improve upon it, then we are looking for a lot of creativity, as it happened in judgments. Right? Here you expect creativity, and the Supreme Court of India says, we rely upon what was stated in the Supreme Court of Canada. We just move away from Feast case, we just move away from University of London case also. Somewhere in between that, halfway road is there, and that is where we put a large answer. I don't know where the large S ultimately. We know that, we know the problem. We are still unable to find it as what was the crux of that particular judgment in ABC case. The ABC case. So there, a lot of creativity is expected. Feast case also expected creativity because there was collection of the pre-existing material, assembling it, but beyond collection and assembly, what happened there? If you collect and assemble, it's fed off the bro. It's fed off the bro. If you select and arrange, it involves creativity. Selection and arrangement. So you make selection and arrangement. All these are applicable in case of derivative, certain transformative works. I would suggest you to go through the popular karaoke case. Karaoke case relating to appropriation art. How the appropriation art ultimately would either get protection or not get protection. That's where you should start off your entire journey into the fair use, where you adopt the already existing work and create a transformative work. Right? Then, coming back, let me complete. Now I was talking about the artistic work created here. Is it a transformative work? Is it the original work of this man? Yes. It did not exist previously. You created it now. And what is the element of creativity you are going to look at here? Minimum. How did Kerala High Court look at the issue when Arya Bhashyam took 2 photographs of Mahatma Gandhi, which were in the public domain, cut them into half, both of them were cut into half, takes the head portion from one picture, takes the body from the other one, turns this particular body poster, joins them together and creates a new work. Does he get copyright over that? Kerala High Court says, why not? Why do you question the extent of originality? Is it original or not? As he put in his labor, effort, etc., and as he created a work, if that can get protection, why this should not also get protection? Yes, please. You have some point?
Sir, if the work is already there in the public domain, then it won't get the copyright protection.
Why?
There is one case which deals with that.
There are many cases. Public domain material cannot be claimed copyright protection. But has it taken public domain material as it is? No. You are free to. See, if that is the case, I remember, I'm going back into it, come back to this issue. None of business issue. What is none of business? All the business. All the business. Indian jurisprudence, US and European jurisprudence study, right? How do you assess non-obviousness? Anyone has seen Flash of Genius? There you see, everything he goes. Saturday Night also is there. Flash of Genius is also there. And anyway, simple. Flash of Genius, I'm not going to legal issue. Flash of Genius, what happened? It was, I forgot his name. Carry on. He is an inventor. An inventor who invented the windshield wiper. Right? Windshield wiper. And that was an invention for which US Patent Office granted patent. And now he wanted to commercially exploit that. He goes to Ford, and Ford authorities start negotiation with him. And they negotiate. They do not come to terms. At some point of time, they promise that they are going to buy that particular technology, the patent technology, and adopt it in their cars. And that is when he goes, sells off all his property, buys another land for setting up an industry where he can manufacture this in large scale. And one fine day, they ditch him. They ditch him when he finds that his technology has been adopted onto a particular car, and the car is sold. The release function of the car, he goes there and then he was shocked to see that the technology has been adopted. And now he starts litigation. When he starts the litigation, he issues a notice to a lawyer, and the negotiation starts. Unofficially, the negotiation starts here. And those who came for negotiation, they offered him several $1 million. They offered him, and he said no for everything. All that he said is, I would not mind withdrawing this particular case if only the Ford managing director comes up and says, we have stolen Keyron's technology. Or if they take up an assignment, right? Take assignment of my technology. Either way I am comfortable. Then ultimately, given all the lawyers who are negotiating, and then we have the backup. They say, we can't help you anyhow. You just take your own course. Let it take your own course. Ultimately, he goes to the court of law. But this would against them for infringement. And he fights his own case because all lawyers said, we are not going to fight against Ford. There was a team of lawyers supporting Ford. I'll just go to the crux of the case. It is a 2.5-hour movie. The crux of the case is that an expert witness is brought. Right? And the expert witness has been questioned by the Ford company counsel. And the counsel says, asking the question. Refers to different parts of the windshield wiper. Ask him to explain the history of each part. And the expert explains the history of each part. This has been known from such a long time. This has been known from such a long time. This is used in the industry. This is used in the industry. All parts were used in the industry already. If all of them are already used in the industry, would this get patented? The counsel closed his argument. I don't know this man. See, common man with common sense. There was no need for him to know the entire patent, but he learned patent law. His son, who was studying engineering, when the notice was issued, completes engineering, completes law, starts his practice in the court, becomes a senior counsel. By the time the judgment was given. Right? That's what happened. Now coming to the most important part. Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities. Any of you remember the first part of it?
It was best of times.
Beautiful. I was expecting that. It is the best of time, the worst of time. He asks his son to bring that particular book. The son brings that particular book, and then he starts reading it out. Have you seen this book? He laughs. The witness, the expert witness laughs and says, who doesn't know? Right? This, everyone knows. He reads out the entire part, the best of time, worst of time, to the last phrase, and then says, can you tell me whose words are these? Again he laughs, sarcastically he laughs and says, Your Honor, this is a question to be asked. And even the judge says, how long would you take to come to the point? He says, I have already come to the point, Your Honor. And he says, of course, this is by whom? Charles Dickens. This is Charles Dickens. Everyone, everywhere in the English belt, no, this is by Charles Dickens. Now, he asks his son to bring another book. He brings another book, and then he takes out the first one. It is the best of times. The second book that he brought was a dictionary. He said, do you find the word it in the dictionary? Every word is found in the dictionary. Every word is found in the dictionary. And then he closes it. The cross-examination. And the judge smiles. You must have seen the movie.
Yes.
The judge smiles. The message was given to the judge. Message was given to the judge. If all words are already found in the dictionary, then how do you call this as Charles Dickens' statement? If all the parts of the windshield wiper were already found, but still there can be someone who can bring them together to make it work during wet period and the dry period on a windshield. That is what I have done. And he gets the award. Several $1 million award he gets at the end. This point I said, friends. You know in which context I said it? What? Huh?
One of us.
No, obviously. And the pattern system. Now go back to the question that you raised.
Yes, sir. I thought earlier that was a mere arrangement of the different parts that was already there in the public domain.
Right?
And I thought earlier that was a mere arrangement of the.
Exactly.
Because it's just a body and also the.
See, if you are talking of copyright, the point that I was trying to drive home here is Indian courts did not insist on creativity in every copyrighted work. If you are creating a new work in itself, all it is required is that it should be originality in terms of labor, skill and labor put into that, and that minimum labor and skill is enough. And the court also says the quantity of labor, etc., is not so much material, is what it said. So in that context,
So why don't we have a globalized standard for this thing, for copyright? For example, some jurisdiction follows Sir doctrine, some follows the CCH Kennedy, some follows totally the austerity body standard in European Union. So in patent law we have in every jurisdiction if you go, you must qualify novelty, non-obviousness and utility standard. It's universal.
right.
After the TRIPS agreement, we are bound by this thing.
Right.
Why don't we have the same thing in the copyright? Because it is creating problem for us. For example,
Do you think novelty is same throughout the world?
no, almost always we do have some kind of a guideline.
Copyright also almost uniformity. Every IP, if you just go to TRIPS provisions, TRIPS provides for the minimum requirement, and every country follows the minimum requirement now. But beyond that, it is we should be very clear about the cultural specificity of a country, which alone should drive the IP portfolio. I don't think India can graft American IP system into Indian system. That will be the total disadvantage of the whole community. Ask, like a few minutes back we were discussing about this relation. Discussing about this. Can we have a very same system that should be applicable here? We sat in a conference at Seattle where Judge Ryder, who was the chief judge of the CAFC, he comes onto the platform and then says, well, there are countries, he was referring to India, we know that, because we are also on the same panel. There are countries who have given more emphasis to right to health. They have given more emphasis to right to food. Patent law is not meant to take care of right to food and then right to health. Patent law is meant to encourage technology. Went on for 20-25 minutes. He went on. What should you ask?
So, I have a question. Like, if we're considering creativity in photography, the angle at which the shot is taken is the most important. So, whosoever makes the setting on the device, how will that matter? Because every device is coming up with a manual book to know how to take the best shot at. But unless and until, even in the Oscar selfie case, unless and until the shot was taken at a particular angle, the shot would not have been that beautiful. So, how do we say that?
There's no question at all in your that statement. In your statement, you say that there are certain specific positions, vantage positions that an individual would take to take a certain photograph. And that is where the skill of an individual is important, right? And a second person would also be, if he's a good photographer, will also be knowing the vantage position at which you should sit and take the photograph, right? Is he drawing inspiration from the first one, or is he copying the first one? If he is copying the first one, what is that he is copying from the first one? Is he copying the technology part, or is he copying the copyrighted material? Right? There's a very popular case. I don't know whether you discussed that on the dramatic work. Two videos were taken. The first one, where a man would come, stand, dance. He dances. And after he dances, they use the technique called as jump cutting techniques. Right? Jump cutting techniques. And a movie is made. What happens in that particular movie now when it's shown? A person who is standing here will be standing there. He jumps from here to that particular place, right? Flies from this place to the other place. That is how the entire song, back action happens in this what's called as joy. Another advertiser asks the same person to take similar pictures. What happens in the second case is, there is what do you call it? Some liquor, right? I just forgot what liquor. Is kept on the table. The person comes and serves it in the glass. The froth should settle down. Till the froth settles down, the customer stands up and dances. Right? And his dance is, again, they use the jump cutting technique. After using jump cutting technique, in this case also, the man from here comes to the other place, from here to the other place. What is similar between these two is some actions which physically cannot be performed is performed by the actors in these two cases. So there was a suit filed against the second was saying that they have copied our copyrighted work. What has been copied there?
The idea, the technique, the technology has been copied by the first one. Is that idea, the technology, copyright protected? There is no copyright in it. What has been copied is not the copyrighted content, but the technology there. In your case, if the copying is technology and not the copyrighted work, there should not be any copyright infringement whatsoever. Well and division. See, idea expression dichotomy is so deeply rooted, though it's difficult for us to divide. I remember Judge Learned Hand, right, in Nichols' case, saying you will have to draw the line between idea and expression to find out what is protected, what is not protected. And he is also in doubt, because he says wherever you draw the line, it will be arbitrary. Right? It will be arbitrary. That's what this Learned Hand says. Yes, please.
So my question regarding the copyright and patent, because we see the mobile apps are there, and we see the mobile apps both the patents and the copyrights in this suite. Because when we say the functions of the apps is safeguarded by the patents, but it takes a lot of time, so the patents are granted. And on the other side, when say the literal elements like images, videos are protected by the copyright. So how we can see the scope of the mobile apps in regard to both copyright and patents protection?
If you rigorously enforce,
and a lot of
if you want me to go to the legal aspects, it's something different. If you want me to go to the marketing aspect and the management aspect, that's something different. Right? If you just want to manage, it's something like your what is that? Sony Corporation and Napster cases. It was like something like Napster cases. Napster cases, there were millions of people who were downloading the copyrighted material and committing infringement, and Napster, this association could not have gone against each individual. Practically impossible. And therefore it pounds upon the easy prey, that is Napster, and held them liable for secondary liability. And the secondary liability also no contributory infringement and vicarious infringement, both were found in the particular case, and they were held liable. They were held liable, right, in that case. And therefore, coming to this particular issue, how do you rigorously enforce? If you're talking of legal issues, friends, I'm sure you must have read thoroughly about copyright relating to computer programs. Where does copyright lie in a computer program? Is that all?
Literally, both literally and non-literally.
Next question is, you said literally.
Non-literal elements.
Non-literal and
What are the non-literal elements also?
SSO.
SSOs. First, the most important one is SSO. Velan case, I'm sure you must have gone through. Velan case, the first case. And what happened subsequently? Altai case, what happened in Altai case? Altai case came out with AFC test. Abstraction, filtration, and then comparison test. One was a very narrow test and one other the widest test. Velan was the widest test and AFC was the narrowest test. And the courts have started evolving jurisprudence between these two extremes, right? Trying to adopt between these two. Which means, in an application, the non-literal elements are also protected under copyright law, right? And you're going to just draw a distinction between the non-literal elements and the idea. It becomes functional. Again, very narrow. Very narrow, like idea and expression is also very narrow. The only difference that you find here is it is not on the expression side, it is on the idea side. What is that? Non-literal element is on more close to the idea side, but not the idea as such. Not the idea. It is a non-literal expression that you find. Like your entire phone booth copied movie. You know that? Knockout. Knockout in knockout, copy of phone booth, frame to frame, they copied. Characters were different, set was different, but phone booth was the same. And there was a vamp was trying to fire at him, and then he gets everything done. And the entire story that is modified in Indian context is to suit Indian context. Because there are many corrupt babus and politicians. So it fits into that particular story. Otherwise, the same. What did you find here? You did not find similar frames, right? But to put it simply, after learner had said, wherever you draw the line, it's going to be arbitrary. Comes an IT professor, Professor Zakaria Schaff. Schaff comes. And then he says, it is possible for you to apply the line, draw a line, and come out with what's popular as pattern. Yes, the pattern that, what is the pattern that you're looking at? Pattern has two elements. One is interplay of major characters and then sequence of events. That's what you mean by SSO. Sequence of events. Look at these two elements. Then the pattern. Is pattern literal part? No, it's not literal part. But still, you should get protection. Even copying that should be liable for copyright infringement. Therefore, it is an application. Applications, the more rigorously you try to enforce your copyright, there's possibility for you to win. But the problem, friends, I'll tell you, I was addressing a team of movie directors just a few years back, and then I was suggesting them as to how they can enforce their copyright in their movies, etc., etc. And they were very curious in listening to it. And when it came to of enforcement, they did not show so much enthusiasm. I knew. And after the entire meeting, it was got over. We office bearers, I met office bearers, and I asked them why they were not so enthusiastic when it came to because of enforcement of the rights. None of the movies made by them are original. What is that they are going to enforce? In fact, I have collected at least 2,000 to 3,000 instances of Bollywood, Tollywood, and Bollywood copying Hollywood. If you want, I'll show you. I did not make any of the slides. I can show you. Everywhere they say, inspired. You are inspired. Where does inspiration stop and copying starts? Copying starts. You got to be little bit. Right? You can go on and on. This is really useful, fascinating for us. Many issues are there. Friends, I thought as it was a decision that I took when I was just traveling from Kolkata to Kharagpur. Let me just add footnotes to whatever. Instead of taking you to a different issue only. Right? Thank you. If you have any other question, you can just shoot, ask me later. We are here till tomorrow also. And then if you want any other clarification, you can just shoot a mail to me. My email ID is Ramakrishna. Ram is the name and IPR is the subject. Ram IPR at gmail.com. Right? Thank you.